ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ pagar messo Sindh valdan.
Breathing in all this dust is the main cause of death here, especially among children.
પાણ બીમાર હોનો હોય ને તો ડીજે બધા તો માણો કોણ તો કરી શકે ને.
The Megwars used to herd cattle. One day, the family borrowed money from a wealthy kiln owner to pay a hospital bill.
Thank you, Iqbal ji. Good morning. Thank you, Iqbal साहब. आपका बहुत
जी कैसे हैं?
मैं ठीक ठाक हूँ. बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया. Stay and happy New Year to everyone.
Happy to see you again.
Yeah, good to see you. So आज आप थोड़ा सा मैं आपका फिर से introduction करा दूँ to our audience. So Iqbal Detho, he is the chairperson of Human Rights Commission in Sindh.
Former, I was.
So you are the founder, right? Sir, थोड़ा सा अपना भी क्योंकि you are very senior personality. So please अपना थोड़ा सा क्योंकि हमारे पास बहुत सारे audience हैं, those who are from international. So I would like to introduce yourself. That will be more बहुत अच्छा लगेगा हमें.
Okay, thank you. I'm so thankful for having me as a panelist to speak on the subject. Before coming on the subject, I worked with Amnesty International way back from 93 to 99. I was the volunteer working with Amnesty International in various capacities as a campaign coordinator, as a human rights education coordinator, and later on in 2001 to 2006, I became the volunteer secretary general of Amnesty International Pakistan. And that was the period when General Musharraf has imposed the martial law in Pakistan, and that was the time after the 9/11. And subsequently, I was one of the, in a way, founder of the SHRC, that is the Society for the Protection of the Rights of Child in Sindh and Balochistan from 2005 to later on 2012. Then I did my master's in human rights from London School of Economics, LSE, and again went to the USA for a Hubert Humphrey Fellowship on human rights and law. And so on return, I joined Save the Children and various other international organizations working in the rights, human rights, bonded labor, and other things. In 2002, I became member of the National Commission on the Rights of Child for 3 years from Sindh, representing the Sindh province. And 2023, March, I joined as a chairperson, Sindh Human Rights Commission, till September 2025. So that's my introduction. But apart from that, I had worked with because the subject which you are dealing with, while I was in the SHRC, I was the secretary of the National Coalition on Bonded Labor. At the time, I also worked on the global, I participated in the global march against child labor in Pakistan, and I read my 2 books on bonded labor and also on child labor. So over to you.
Yeah, thank you for it's a brief introduction. Thank you. मुझे जितना ज़्यादा नहीं पता था उतना आपने बहुत ज़्यादा बताया, तो मेरे लिए इतना ही काफ़ी है कि you are a very experienced person, but you have done a lot of work in the grassroots as well as in the political sessions पे भी आप आएंगे. So sir, अभी situation क्या है? Like what is the current situation of bonded laborers in Sindh, especially with we have seen many bonded laborers are from the grassroots communities, especially with the Hindus communities, basically in Sindh. So, and what is the role of government is playing current situation into 2026, and what's the plan in 2026?
Okay, let me frame the issue first. When we say the bonded labor or a forced labor or a dead bondage, so these are the terms which many people do not understand technically. So whenever we say, I think we have to go on English or Urdu or
you
other.
can both. You can speak. The audiences. They can understand Hindi as well, or Urdu, Hindi, or
Okay.
English.
Okay. So you know that in Pakistan, the first case appeared, that was the Darshan Masih case in 88, when the Supreme Court took a suo moto on the one of the petition by a bonded laborer working in the bricklines in the Muzaffargarh district. And during that thing, the Supreme Court took the suo moto and ordered the government to formulate the law regarding the abolition of bonded labor. So when we talk about the bonded labor, forced labor in American context, it may be the trafficking in persons, it may be the human trafficking, or it may be the compelled labor. So in Pakistani terminology, it was the forced labor. In Pakistan Penal Code, it was already codified in Pakistan Penal Code section 374, which prohibited the forced labor. And even in the Constitution of Pakistan, it was an Article 11, 1, which prohibited the forced labor and slavery in the country. And Article 11, subsection 2, clearly prohibited the forced labor. And Article 11, subsection 3 of the Constitution of Pakistan says that no child below the age of 14 will be allowed to work into the hazardous labor. So in Constitution, you will have Article 11, which clearly says about the prohibition of slavery, forced labor, and such existing practices. And same time, even the Article 3 of the Constitution, which says that there shall be no exploitation, whether it is an economic or a social or a political, which is Article 3. And you will see, I will link with this thing, when the Supreme Court took the suo moto and decided the case in 1988, they, 99, they took these articles, Article 3 of the Constitution of Pakistan, Article 11 of the Pakistan, Article 9 of the life, liberty, and security of a person, Article 14 of the dignity of a person are the main, and freedom of association, freedom of movement. So those are the fundamental rights which were being infringed or violated by the employer. So in light of that, Pakistan government at that time enacted the Bonded Labor System Abolition Act 1992, and subsequently the rules of the implementation were formulated in 95. So this was the legal framework which I am mentioning you, the constitutional provisions and the special law and the general law provisions clearly prohibit the existence of the bonded labor. Now, coming to your question, that it is again the power dynamics with the bonded labor or a forced labor or you can say the debt bondage. How, as far as Sindh is concerned, you will see that in agricultural lands, particularly in the lower part of the Sindh, that is called the Mirpur Khas division and Hyderabad division, you will see those communities which were indigenous. I will not call them from the minorities. Of course, they are from the lower ladder of the in socio-economically, like Bhil, Koil, Mangwars, and such communities. They were found trapped into the practices of the bonded labor or a debt bondage. So in agriculture, you will see these indigenous people, which we call the son of the soil, how they had been relegated over a historical period of a time, socio-economically relegated, and then they had been landed themselves into the bondage. Because again, it is a power dynamics. You will see on the same pattern like in bricklane owners in Punjab, even some people from Christian minorities, or even Muslims from the low socioeconomic ranks are there. So same bonded labor you will see in the fisheries, you can see in the Ibrahim Hadri, you can see in the mining, you can see in other sectors of industry or businesses. So I think it has the power dynamics. It has the issue of a weaker I think the economically, socially, and politically. So we have a law, we have institutions, but these socio-economic disadvantages has not created such ecosystem or a human rights infrastructure where these things so you can see that after 95 then there was a devolution system, and that again this there was called the district vigilance committee at the district level. Deputy commissioner used to head earlier, and then it was followed by the Zilla Nazim, the district Nazim, and then again after the devolution and post 18th amendment, you saw the labor again become a subject of the provinces, and then the provinces legislated their provincial laws. So, like the Bombay Labor System Abolition Act 92 was promulgated in Punjab, in Sindh, in KP, in Balochistan. So they have their provincial legislations and provincial rules, and under which they had the district vigilance committees. And now those committees are being headed by the deputy commissioners. Again, there is a dichotomy that these very deputy commissioners who are the revenue district heads, who oversees the assistant commissioners or the Mukhtarkars, sometimes they are supposed to implement and rehabilitation and legal aid and all these things. And there is a parallel law in Sindh as well, that is called the Sindh Tenancy Act 1951, and that is a relationship between the farmer and the landlord. And again, this law was challenged multiple times in the court of law. And in 2000, agricultural workers were not termed as a bonded by Justice Qurban Nalvi, and that decision was challenged by the Human Rights Commission of Pakistan at that time, and then Supreme Court overturned that decision that no, bonded labor is illegal in whatever term. So you can't have any new name of a contract or other things or social obligation. So giving advance peshgi, it is illegal and void in Pakistan. You are not audible.
My question is,
Yeah.
my question is, how long do typical bonded labor cases take to move through the legal system in Sindh?
Good question. Bonded labor is a criminal offense.
Okay.
And law says the magistrate of the first class has a cognizance. And in that sense, it is a criminal case, and criminal case normally, like civil case, takes much time, but it depends upon the quality of the investigation, the quality of the prosecution, and it depends upon the knowledge of the police. And the very disturbing thing is, if you will review the trafficking persons report of the US State Department annually, or you will see other reports, that the police is not aware to apply the provisions of the Bonded Labor System Abolition Act. So initially, police is applying very lenient Pakistan Penal Code provisions, which is the illegal confinement and restraint, and there is a very lesser punishment in those provisions of the law. So police is not aware about the section 11, the section 12, or the section 13 of the Bonded Labor System Abolition Act 2015 has to be invoked. And then even if they are invoking, then their prosecution, their submission of challan in the court, and then the interest of the prosecution. And again, the judges are not also clear on many things. So you will see that judges are very lenient. Judiciary is very lenient, and by releasing the bonded laborers and setting them at liberty, but not punishing the offenders, which the punishment which they are supposed to undergo. So normally it takes, I think, within 1 year or 1.5 years, but conviction is very low, acquittal is very much high in such cases.
Okay. So we have we have one advocate. We have Chandra Kohli is with us. We have seen many cases in Sindh. So Chandra, you are audible, please. I think he is.
Hi, Sanjay. Is my voice audible to you?
Yeah, please. Thank you. Thank you. Do you have any questions with our guest speakers? So Iqbal Ahmed Detho is with us because you are right now as a advocate in Sindh also.
जी जी बिल्कुल, मैं इकबाल डेथो साहब से ये पूछना चाहूँगा कि क्योंकि जो इकबाल डेथो साहब है वो काफ़ी वक्त से गवर्निंग लेवल पर काम कर रहे हैं और साथ ही पर हो सकता है जी थे, लेकिन शायद उन्होंने ज्वाइन अब तक नहीं किया है। तो अगर वो स्टेटिस्टिक्स पर कुछ बात करें कि कितने केसेस ऑन ईयर रिपोर्ट होते हैं, उनमें से कितने जो है वो जुडिशरी में जाते हैं, उन केसेस के लिए आगे प्रोसीड होते हैं, और कितनों को कनेक्शन होंगी आज तक विद इन दिस ईयर, और कितनों को नहीं हो पाई। अगर नहीं हो पाई तो उसके पीछे क्या रीजन है, अगर इस पर कुछ नजरसानी करें तो इसके लिए गुड।
यस सर। सो आपका क्वेश्चन आपको बिल्कुल क्लियर हुआ सर? हाँ चंद्र, वंस मोर आप दोबारा से आप क्वेश्चन कर सकते हैं, क्योंकि ऑडियंस को भी और गेस्ट स्पीकर को भी समझ में आना चाहिए।
तो मेरी आवाज क्लियर आ रही है आपको?
क्या आवाज क्लियर आ रही है आपकी?
जी हाँ, मैं ये पूछना चाह रहा हूँ कि क्योंकि इकबाल डेथो साहब का एक वसी काम रहा है बॉडी लेबर को लेकर, तो मैं ये उससे पूछना चाहूँगा कि इस पॉसिबिलिटी कि वो थोड़ा सा स्टेटिस्टिक्स पर बात करें कि कितने केसेस जो वो रिपोर्ट होते हैं सालाना तौर पर, सिंध से कितने होते हैं, पंजाब से कितने होते हैं, और जो वो मुख्तलिफ कमीशन जो बॉडी लेबर पर काम कर रही हैं वो उसमें क्या स्टेट शो कर रहे हैं कि कितने केसेस रिपोर्ट होते हैं। साथ ही में जो केसेस रिपोर्ट होते हैं एनजीओ को, उनमें से कितने केसेस जो वो जुडिशरी के पास आते हैं, यानी कि क्रिमिनल एक्टिविटी में लिटिगेशन में कितने आते हैं। अगर इस पर सर कुछ नजरसानी करें तो दैट विल बी ग्रेट।
देखिए, पहले तो आई एम नॉट रिप्रेजेंटिंग द गवर्नमेंट, जो मैं आपको कहूँ कि ये डेटा है, ये स्टेटिस्टिक्स है, ये डेटा का और एम्पिरिकल एविडेंस का बड़ा गैप है। यस, दैट इज द बिग प्रॉब्लम व्हिच subsequently has been raised in various जो भी ILO की कमेटीज जब पाकिस्तान की डेटा को मॉनिटर करती है, या इवन जो गवर्नमेंट है के सिस्टम में, तो वहाँ डेटा का बड़ा इशू है। और ये बार एंड बार, व्हाइल आई वाज इन द गवर्नमेंट पोजीशन में कमीशन का चेयरपर्सन था, तो मैंने ये कैटेगोरिकली पुलिस की जो ट्रेनिंग्स थी उनके मॉड्यूल्स में ये चीजें दिलवाई थी कि जो उनकी डेटा शीट्स हैं, उनकी जो सेंट्रल पुलिस ऑफिसेज में डेटा की बनती हुई शीट्स से, तो उधर उनकी कंपाइलेशन होनी चाहिए। वाइल पुरानी बात है, इन 2012 to 15 एक ह्यूमन राइट्स सेल्स सिंध पुलिस ने कायम किए थे, तो उसमें एंटी बॉन्डेड लेबर सेल भी उसका हिस्सा था। तो उसका फर्स्ट सेल हमने महबूब खास में उस वक्त इस्टेब्लिश करवाया था। तो अभी यस, डेटा का बिकॉज ये कॉग्निटेबल ऑफेंसेस होते हैं और वो डेटा पुलिस के पास FIR के कॉन्टेक्स्ट में होती है, और कहीं तो केसेस चालान होने से पहले ही आपको पता है कि वो कैंसिल क्लास में चले जाते हैं। और प्रोसिक्यूशन की जो शीट है उसमें भी स्पेशल लॉज की सेपरेट कोई हेडिंग बॉन्डेड लेबर सिस्टम एबोलिशन एक्ट की एज सच नहीं थी। जहां तक डेटा पंजाब और सिंध की आपने बात की है, ये बड़ी टेंडेंसी है, क्योंकि सिंध तो सिंध बॉन्डेड लेबर सिस्टम एबोलिशन एक्ट पुलिस ओवरसाइट करती है, अप्लाई करती है, और उसकी मॉनिटरिंग कमेटीज जो होती हैं डिस्ट्रिक्ट की लेवल पे लेबर ऑफिसर उसका सेक्रेटरीट होता है। एक ये मैंने देखी है टेंडेंसी कि whenever we are supposed to submit reports either GSP प्लस में या कहीं और, तो हम प्रोसिक्यूशन साइड ज्यादा दिखा देते हैं। और अभी भी यही एक प्रैक्टिस चली है कि प्रिवेंशन एंड ऑफ ह्यूमन ट्रैफिकिंग इन पर्संस एक्ट के तहत बहुत से छोटी छोटी डोमेस्टिक चाइल्ड लेबर की, स्ट्रीट चिल्ड्रन के अदर केसेस को भी उन्होंने प्रिवेंशन ऑफ ट्रैफिकिंग इन पर्संस एक्ट में दाखिल किए हैं। तो ये डेटा पर्टिकुलरली बॉन्डेड लेबर इन एग्रीकल्चर में और बॉन्डेड लेबर इन ब्रिकलिन में, बॉन्डेड लेबर इन फिशरीज में, बॉन्डेड लेबर इन माइनिंग में, ये इनकी कैटेगराइजेशन की पर्टिकुलरली जरूरत है वक्त की।
और किसी और को कुछ सवाल करना है तो प्लीज आप अपना माइक ऑन करके या ऑडिबल करके पूछ सकते हैं मिस्टर इकबाल देतो साहब से। सो वी हैव
सर मेरा सवाल, एक्सक्यूज मी, मेरा सवाल ये है कि काफी परसेंटेज पाकिस्तान में है लेबर रेशो, चाइल्ड लेबर रेशो, तो इट इज वेरी डिफिकल्ट टू मैनेज इट, टू कंट्रोल आल्सो, आई थिंक सो।
इस चीज को कंट्रोल करना,
आई थिंक चाइल्ड लेबर पे शायद आप बात कर रहे थे ना, तो
चाइल्ड लेबर, लेकिन चाइल्ड लेबर एक इज अ सेपरेट इशू। वी वर टॉकिंग अबाउट द बॉन्डेड लेबर, जो ज्यादातर चाइल्ड लेबर इज नॉट अ कॉग्निजेबल इशू, और वो उसकी सेपरेट जुरिसडिक्शन है। वो चाइल्ड लेबर को पुलिस को नहीं है जुरिसडिक्शन। चाइल्ड लेबर सिंध में जो है ना प्रोहिबिशन ऑफ एम्प्लॉयमेंट ऑफ चिल्ड्रन एक्ट है 2017 का, और वो जो कॉग्निजेंस है वो सिर्फ पुलिस नहीं ले सकती, उसकी लेबर डिपार्टमेंट कंप्लेन कर सकती है।
सर मेरा सवाल ये है कि एक साल में कितने आपके पास केसेस आते हैं बॉन्डेड लेबर के, और मतलब आप लोगों के लाइक सिंध गवर्नमेंट के पास या सिंध जुडिशरी के पास, सो और उस केसेस को लाइक किस तरीके से आप लोग हल करते हैं, और उसका सिस्टम हमें क्योंकि इंटरनेशनल भी पता होना चाहिए कि
हाँ, ये देखिए, while I was for 2.5 years चेयरपर्सन था सिविल राइट्स कमीशन का, या 3 साल पहले मैं नेशनल कमीशन ऑन द राइट्स ऑफ चाइल्ड का इस्लामाबाद में मेंबर था, तो मैं चाइल्ड लेबर के केसेस को इस्लामाबाद में भी मैं देखता था कमीशन के बिहाफ पे। तो उसमें ज्यादातर सर्टेन एप्लीकेशंस जो आती थी, कई बॉन्डेड लेबर, मतलब डोमेस्टिक चाइल्ड लेबर का इशू था, रिक्रूटमेंट ऑफ चिल्ड्रन के इश्यूज थे। तो ये समझना चाहिए कि पहले जो एम्प्लॉयमेंट ऑफ चिल्ड्रन एक्ट 91 का, उसमें चाइल्ड लेबर बिलो 14 ईयर तो अलाउड नहीं था, मगर जो 14 से 17 साल का लाइट वर्क अलाउड था, एडोलेसेंट वर्क उसको कहते हैं। सॉरी, तो ये बहुत डिफिकल्ट होता है कि चाइल्ड वर्क और चाइल्ड लेबर में डिफरेंशिएट करना, और जो लॉ है वो क्रिमिनलाइज करता है हैजर्डियस चाइल्ड लेबर को। और हैजर्डियस चाइल्ड लेबर में अभी जो रिसेंटली हुए हैं जुरिसडिक्शन लॉज की, तो उसमें भी अभी भी डोमेस्टिक चाइल्ड लेबर हैजर्डियस लेबर में सवाए बलूचिस्तान के लॉ में, इवन इस्लामाबाद में भी उन्होंने शेड्यूल में चेंज किया है, मगर डेफिनेशंस में और सब्सटेंटिव प्रोविजंस में उसको एज ए पनिशेबल क्राइम नहीं है वहां। तो अभी चाइल्ड लेबर सर्वेज आई हैं, सिंध में आई हैं, पंजाब में आई हैं, गिलगित बल्तिस्तान में आई है, एजेके में आई है। तो उसमें पुरानी जो चाइल्ड लेबर सर्वे थी 96 वाली और 2006 में वो रिलीज हुई, तो उसमें तो था 3.3 मिलियन चिल्ड्रन जो था। और अब जो आई है चाइल्ड लेबर की, तो उसमें सिंध की 7% वो दिखाई दे रहे हैं। मगर अगेन जो डेटा सेट्स हैं, किस चीज को चाइल्ड लेबर कहते हैं और कौन सी जो डेटा सेट्स उन्होंने यूज किए हैं, अब इनफॉर्मल फॉर्मल, ये बड़ी डिफरेंशिएशन का इशू है। तो चाइल्ड लेबर इज नॉट इजीली मेजरेबल ऑफेंस।
Is it only affected? Or let me rephrase my question. Only the Hindu minority is being affected by these these laws, or Christians and even Muslims in Pakistan and their kids are also affected.
It's a good question. मैंने शायद you were not earlier in my discussion. Sometime those people who are working in agriculture sector as a bonded laborer, so in which you can find the families, children, and people belonging to other religious faiths, जो मैंने particularly कहा कि भील, कोयली, मंगवार, उनकी मेजॉरिटी है। और दैट इज बिकॉज के उनके सोशल प्रोटेक्शन सिस्टम्स जो है वो वीकर हैं, और जो रेजिलियंसेस हैं कम्युनिटीज की वो वीकर हैं। देयरफॉर दे आर सब्जेक्टेड इन पावर डायनामिक्स का एक वो इशू है। एज फार एज मुस्लिम्स आर कंसर्न, यू विल फाइंड के इवन जो फिशरीज में वो मुसलमान ही है, माइनिंग में वो मुसलमान ही है, और इवन अगर कई और इंडस्ट्रीज हैं तो उसमें भी मुसलमान हैं। ब्रिक किल्न्स में भी पंजाब में माइनॉरिटी के कुछ लोग, क्रिश्चियंस लोग, कुछ एरियाज में वो ब्रिक किल्न्स के वर्कर्स हैं और वहां मुसलमान भी हैं। बट अगेन इसका एक ये कह दें कि इंटरसेक्शनलिटी विद माइनॉरिटीज हैं, बट एज सच बॉन्डेड लेबर इज नॉट अ माइनॉरिटी इशू।
Okay. So that actually, I don't want to monopolize the conversation, but a follow-up question is, would that give you, as the head of Human Rights Commission in Pakistan, would that give you a stronger base to actually internationalize this issue?
No issue, when we are talking about human rights, I was heading the sub-national commission and I was the member of the national commission. So these are called the national human rights institutions. These are called the NHRIs. These are called the non-judicial mechanisms of the red racial. Our work was to ensure the compliance of the country with the international standards and the laws and the commitments which the Pakistan is a state party, number one. And so far we were supposed to identify the gaps and the lacunas in the existing domestic laws to make them compatible with the international law. So that was the second compatibility of the international laws with the national laws, their implementation, their compliance, and our role was to fill the gap between the civil society and the government to play the role of human rights advocates, to strengthen them that they should know who are the duty bearers, who are the right holders, how they should knock their door, and that capacity. You must be surprised that when I took the charge of the commission head in Sindh, I wrote to the caretaker chief minister at that time, Justice Maqbool Bakr, and he ordered the whole commissioners of the Sindh province to formulate the district vigilance committees, to activate them, and to make the rules. And so that was my job at that time, to mobilize and activate the institutions within the legal framework. And now, your question regarding, internationalization of the domestic issues, either this is maybe discussed at another occasion, that how the politics of human rights is working. whether this politics of human rights, that is called the, we say that the, and many times when the states are not listening to the domestic constituency right holders, then the domestic constituency approaches to the international forums and are the actors beyond the borders. So, and that thing that is called the blue model, and you might know that Professor Catherine Sinking has developed that theory that once a state A is not listening or not remedifying, and then such reports goes from that countries to other countries, and then they advocate at the international networks, and then the states of the state A concede and they come into the consistent behavior, they ratify the conventions, they make the institutions, they do the capacity building, and then they are obliged to abide by the consistent behavior. So this is how, you know, the international advocacy of human rights is working.
I'm sure similar problem exists in India in rural places as well. I'm not aware of it, but I'm sure it exists. But can you help? I joined late, so you may have already covered it. What does the word bonding or bonded labor mean in Pakistan? Does that mean that they are not allowed to go anywhere? They are basically kept as slaves?
So, you know, basically, if you read the history of human rights, and you see that the initial movements in the human rights movement were the working for those who were enslaved. So Abraham Lincoln outright the slavery in 1863, but it is still existing in one form or another form, in form of a modern slavery. So, you know, the societies are evolving, the construction of norms is also evolving. And, you know, the slavery was allowed or accepted or tolerated in all the major religions of the world, whether it is a Judaism, whether it was a early Greek or European or Islam. But you know, now there is a moral consensus that slavery is abhorrent. So now in international human rights law, slavery is norm of a just cause, or it is a preemptory norms that you cannot allow slavery. So the leading law, which was the Anti-Slavery Act of 1926, under the auspices of the League of Nations, that codified the definition: what is a slave, what is a slavery, what is a slave trade. So basically, when a person does not have a control over oneself and he or she cannot exact her labor, so serfdom was attached to the lands ranging from the Russian or feudalism or French feudalism or early British feudalism or even in the Indo-subcontinent context, you can take it. So serfdom is the farmers attached to the agriculture lands, and they are not allowed to go outside the employer. That is the serfdom. So serfdom means a slave who's mostly in agriculture bondage. And now after that, in 1926, this definition was codified, and then UN Convention on the supplementary forms of slavery in 1956. They broadened the definition of bonded labor, slavery, though even ILO Convention 29 and ILO Convention 105, these are the two ILO conventions which codified the definition of forced labor, bonded labor, slave labor, and then the abolition. So two ILO conventions, and Anti-Slavery Act, and UN Supplementary Convention. So they're broadening the definitions in Pakistani sense. The judgments of the Supreme Courts and the High Courts in Pakistan, it was much debated during the arguments that who you call the bonded labor, the people with the chains or the people who are enclosed, the people, they are not free to go from their lanes to take their kids to their schools, or they take their ailing family members for the hospital. So then this freedom, basically, the freedom is attached with the human agency, and this has been debated in libertarianism or in a liberal philosophy, as well as in the jurisprudence of the courts, that it is the freedom from or freedom of. So you cannot say that bonded labor is only attached with the agriculture land, or bonded labor is only attached with the bonded laborers who are working in the brick kilns, but it is a system, means a person who is an intermediary, who hires, who sells, who takes benefits, who now it is more or less informal economy. It is nowadays gig economy. It's a platform economy. So the definitions of bonded labor or contract labor has changed a lot. They are not the classical definitions which you are referring to.
One last question before I'm accused of being monopolizing the conversation here. So I'm assuming.
Hello.
Sorry. Yeah.
Yes, I have the one question with Mr. Detho. What is the real root cause for the bondage labor or building slavery of the child labor or in a home in all forms which you have already explained? So what is the real root cause, and plus what is the solutions concluded by the any department in your capacity? Thank you.
That's up. This is a very difficult question. What are the causes? Sometimes many people say that, look, child labor is a cause as well as a consequence of the poverty as well. So no country has developed in the world by allowing their children to labor. In fact, it is the education which has ameliorated the lot of such a situation. So child labor simply, as far as as a practitioner or as an academic or as holding the government position, while I was working with the government. So my assessment is that child labor, if we are going to have a minimum wage implemented, that when an adult gets their minimum wage fully, he or she will not send their children to the work because they are getting the minimum wage. Number one. Number two, we have a multiple social security nets, like we have a Benazir income support program, we have a Batul Mal, we have a social welfare, we have now again social protection department. My belief is that if we are going to have a proper identification and data of such families which needs the social security, and if we are going to target such families by providing them the sustenance of the minimum content level and then allowing their children their right to education. So that is the one solution. And regarding your second question, that about policy, the second part of your, that's all.
The reason is that it is the double-edged sword, because the government or any organization, if we are the whistleblowers or something is happening with the children, bondage labor or anything, in the same way, we fail The root cause analysis means poverty, which you already mentioned, but we didn't prove ourselves to provide them the food or education or health. So these are our problem is others cutting edge of our governments or any organization too. So the root cause analysis and provision solutions. So it is a really a mess. And you are absolutely right. In Lincoln's era, the slave labors and the labors were died in the ships and everything. And now is other discrimination about the black and white, whatever. The power and the fix. So one is a cause and effect. So both are deficient.
Yeah. But one other thing is that libertarian societies, in the 17th or 18th centuries or the 19th centuries, they focused so much on the civil and political rights. And after 19th and 20th century, you saw the emergence of the economic and social cultural rights, which we call the second generation of rights. So even if you see the Great Depression, if you see the FDR era, and the freedom from want or freedom from need, so unfortunately, yes, right to education, right to health, right to social security, that are very much important. But again, in our country like Pakistan, my understanding of the issues is that we do not have a lack of resources. We have a lack of the priority of the policies. And I am again and again obliged to quote in such things Amartya Sen. Amartya Sen has said multiple times that when you give the people freedom to criticize the policies, you will not make such errors. So, whether it is a famine or whether it is poverty is not inevitable. It is not the natural. So it is the product of the inequality is the product of the policies. So if you give the people freedom to criticize, if you give the people freedom of speech, if you give the people to correct the participation into such policies. So, coming to the topic of the bonded labor and child labor, I would like to say that it has the intersectionality, it has power dynamics, it has a law enforcement issue, it has even discrimination issue. It has even the majority minority issue. So it is a set of a complex causes. So one cause cannot be said the only issue or a panacea for the resolution of the issue.
Thank you. I have one small 4 minutes documentary about to understand what's the bonded labor in Pakistan or Sindh. I will show it to you in just a minute. I can share with
Bonded labor is a form of modern-day slavery where people are forced to work to pay off debts. This is a violation of fundamental human rights. Pakistan is the third largest producer of bricks in South Asia, with most kilns situated in Punjab. Sadly, a large percentage of brick kiln laborers are trapped in debt bondage. Often, high interest rates make these loans impossible to pay off, and laborers become trapped in a cycle of debt that can pass on from generation to generation. The NCHR team met with a family of freed bonded laborers and interviewed them. The family was trapped in bonded labor for 30 years. They worked long days in the scorching heat at a brick kiln, only to make 1100 Pakistani rupees a day, 300 of which were deducted as peshki. This is only $2.75 a day.
If there was any medical expense, or if we had to pay for a wedding, we became targets of debt. We worked at the kiln to pay off the debt in any way we could. The kiln owners could make us do any kind of work, and we were helpless, so we kept doing it.
At the mercy of kiln owners, bonded laborers suffer through poor living and working conditions.
If they told us to make 1,000 bricks, we would not get paid until each brick was made. We did not have access to adequate food, clean water, or proper clothing. The children used to work with me. We could not afford to send them to school.
Now, free from the shackles of bonded labor, the family has hopes and dreams for the future of their children. A local pastor assisted the family in gaining freedom. In the 30 years that the family spent in bonded labor court officers visited their place of work twice. In another heartbreaking story, Imran Masih, now freed from bonded labor, describes how he inherited his father's debt.
How long were you trapped? Imran Masih, 32 years.
His total debt was only 130,000 Pakistani rupees, which is approximately $450.
The work was very difficult. Even if we were sick, we had to keep working.
Thank you, Mr. Iqbal. I think he's also. Thank you, sir. आपका बहुत शुक्रिया. Thank you for giving us a time.
No, you are welcome. I hope if any clarity or कोई issue किसी की समझ में नहीं आया हो, तो maybe because of the Zoom एक limitation होती है voice की quality का या conceptualization का. So whenever you are any issue, you are welcome to ask me.
So,
Thank
sir,
you.
right now, मुझे पूछना था कि right now you are in the current Human Rights Commission chairperson?
नहीं, मैं नहीं, because सर हुकूमत ने कहा कि आप नहीं चाहिए हमें, तो
सर आप तो बहुत बड़ी सर आप हमें चाहिए.
I think we had worked together sometime. आपने मेरे साथ कब last time कब किया काम?
We met in the Nepal for the training. Yeah.
So I was very एक शाहनवाज कमर का केस हुआ था उमरकोट में, वो मैंने उसकी की थी. That was a ब्लशमी के केस था, और फिर और माइनॉरिटीज के इश्यूज थे, अहमदीज के थे, अदरवाइज भी बहुत से इश्यूज थे. So we were not getting along. I was exerting my independence. They were not comfortable. So they say, okay, Khuda Hafiz. So मैंने कहा ठीक है, that's the way.
What you are joined any organization or you are?
No, I had not joined anyone because my passion is to teach and educate. So I used to teach जाता हूँ academies में, but अभी कोई फॉर्मल कोई भी नहीं आया. I'm still घर पे ही हूँ.
बहुत अच्छा है सर. आपसे तो like आपसे बहुत टाइम चाहिए होगा हमें, क्योंकि I know you have lots of खजाना है आपका.
My number, we will be exchanging the notes together. ठीक है?
And
Thank you.
So you have our email address and we will send you all our newsletters weekly. आपके पास आते रहेंगे.
Sure.
Thank you आपको join करने का, and you have a
Thank
wonderful evening and take care of yourself. Thank you all to joining with us.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.